Welcome to our webinar on what's happening with telecom product regulations in India. I am Nikita Bish and I will be your moderator for today's session. We have an exciting and informative agenda lined up, so let's dive in. For those who are new here, let me give a brief overview of Vincular's business profile. Established in 2012, Vincular has emerged as India's leading regulatory compliance company. We cater to brands, manufacturers and their subsidiaries both domestically and internationally. Serving as their dedicated compliance partner, we offer solutions that simplify compliance by addressing topics such as consulting, policy making, risk assessment, and the management of regulatory compliance. We are a one-stop solution covering the variety of products ranging from electronics, IT, telecommunication and medical to cosmetic. Our scope includes services like BIS, CRS, ISI, TEC, WPC, waste management, FSSAI, PESO and more. Before we proceed to our today's agenda, let me briefly tell you about latest updates on mandatory certification for products listed in MTCTE Phase 3 and 4. TC has extended the mandatory certification deadline for 10 products under MTCTE Phase 3 and 4, with the new effective date being August 1st and 2024. Additionally, the acceptance of deadline for technical test report issued by 𝐈𝐻𝐿𝐼 accredited lab from non-burden sharing countries has been extended to July 31st, 2024. Some of the important product categories that have been extended include LAN switch, router, IP security equipment like firewall, base stations and satellite communication equipment. Next slide. Now let's move further into our agenda, which includes understanding the ComSec Security Scheme by NCCS and hearing from experts. Understanding the TSEC certification procedure from BSNL and word from experts. We will talk about the evaluation techniques of products under MTCTE ER, post which we will discuss latest industry trends and updates, followed by a Q&A session to address your questions. To make agenda more interactive, we have some guest speakers lined up. Allow me to introduce them. Starting with the introduction, we have Shri P.K. Singhji. He has worked in the capacity of Deputy Director General in Telecommunication Engineering Center for the Security Assurance Division and the Chief Information Security Officer. In the past, he has also served in the capacity of Director in various wings in Department of Telecommunication for the Government of India. Currently, he is working with BSNL as the PGM Regulation Department. He comes with a vast experience in the telecom domain and has worked in formulation of technical specification for various telecom products, network elements testing and evaluating them against laid down specifications and international standards. Telecommunication security is one of his key area of expertise. A much senior member of this industry, it is a great honor for us to have him as a part of the speaker panel today. Welcome, sir. Next, we have Shri N.K. Gupta ji. He is a part of our team of industry experts and he need no introduction. He has been a part of BSNL as CFA Director and was with TEC for 6 years as Senior Deputy Director General for IT Division. He has been one of the leaders who has framed the Indian telecom regulation around IT and IT related products. As a senior member of the industry, he has seen the regulatory compliance space around telecom products in India grow and expert. At the last, we have Abhinav Negi, who is a telecom compliance expert at 𝐲𝐶𝐚𝐭'𝐬, specializing in product compliance services with over 8 years of extensive experience. His in-depth knowledge and experience in the telecom regulatory compliance ecosystem enable him to offer valuable advisory services and support in line with the best industry practices along with collaboration with governing authorities. I will now hand over the session to Shri 𝐵𝐾 who will talk about the testing infrastructure and the future outlook for the ComSec scheme. Audience, please note that due to some technical issues, we are not able to see his video. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Nikita, for giving such a wonderful bio reference of myself. Yeah, I'm currently posted in BSNL and looking after the designation of PGM regulation. First of all, I must congratulate Mrs. Vincular for organizing this seminar and inviting me on speaking on a subject which is very near to my heart. So in this, we would be basically taking a look at what this Communication Security Certification Scheme is and how it has originated and what are the various aspects of the ComSec scheme, and then discussing the security requirements of a router and what are the various requirements which have been included in the Indian Telecom Security Assurance requirement for a router. And if there are any questions, we'll basically take those questions during the presentation itself. Otherwise, it will be all from my side. Can we move on to the presentation, please? Yeah. So coming to the origin of ComSec scheme, all the telecom service providers, they have been mandated to deploy the tested and certified products as per the license given to them. And as part of those license conditions, Government of India came up with rules which prescribes that all the telecom equipments which are going to be deployed by them in their network or have the capability of getting connected to the telecom network are required to be tested and certified prior to their sale in the country. So that is what the rules were framed for. And out of those rules, the responsibility of implementing those rules were given to Telecommunication Engineering Center. And Telecommunication Engineering Center came up with detailed procedures. And it is these procedures which are basically known as the MTCTE scheme along with the rules. So the rules and the procedures which we are going to discuss today, there are very senior speakers from the industry who are going to talk about it. So the MTCTE scheme was made available and it was made operational. So the MTCTE scheme comprises of testing and certification against 5 parameters. So those 5 parameters are basically covered under essential requirements and the 𝐻𝑒 requirements. So under the essential requirements, we have the electromagnetic interference and the electromagnetic compatibility parameters. Then we have the safety parameters. We have the technical requirements which define how a protocol is required to be implemented, what are the various aspects of the protocol which are to be implemented. And then there are other requirements which comprises of certain regulatory requirements and some prescribed requirements by Government of India, like in case of a handset, there is a need of a panic button. So that panic button is not covered under the EMI, EMC or safety or technical requirements. It is basically covered under the other requirements. Then there is the requirement of support of IP basics also. So that is also covered under other requirements. Otherwise, technical requirements, safety, EMI, EMC, they basically take care of the major aspect of a particular telecom product. Then very important requirement is covered under the security requirements, which is being handled by a separate unit in DOT, which is being handled by a special unit created under DOT, which is operational from Bangalore, which is known as the National Center for Communication Security. So National Center for Communication Security has been entrusted with the responsibility of preparing the specifications as well as getting implemented and enforcing those specifications. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Yeah. So the name which has been given to this scheme is the Communication Security Certification Scheme, or in brief, ComSec scheme. So this ComSec scheme is basically the guiding vehicle for implementing the security testing and the certification. The objective of the scheme is basically to develop the country-specific security standards, process and specifications. These security standards have been given a very good name also, the Indian Telecom Security Assurance Requirements, or in brief ITSAR or ITSARs. So we have the ITSARs, which covers the security requirements of a telecom product or the various functions under the 5G telecom stack. Then the other objective of this scheme is to develop testing and certification ecosystem within the country. When we say developing testing and certification ecosystem, it is basically giving recognition to the various test labs, facilitating the test labs to develop the capability and the capacity to carry out a specific test, provide them the test specifications, test schedules, and test procedures. And another objective which is to be met by this scheme is to ensure that telecom network elements, they meet the minimum security assurance requirement as mandated in the ITSARs, and also to ensure the compliance of regulatory requirements pertaining to security testing, because while preparing the security requirements, we usually take inputs from the international standards prepared by various standardizing bodies like ITU or 3GPP or IETF. But at the same time, if there are certain specific requirements pertaining to the country as provided by any department or the wing of the Government of India, that also is incorporated into the ITSARs. Next slide, please. So this scheme provides for preparation and publication of various process documents for the various wings of the NCCS to carry out their tasks. We have responsible for preparing the specifications. Another wing is responsible for recognizing and accrediting the test laboratories within the country, and the third wing is responsible for assessing the reports generated by the test labs and according the certification to a particular product. Then the designation of labs is responsibility of the NCCS. Then the designation which has been given, or test lab which is accredited, that validity remains for a period of 3 years, and it is extendable till the time the lab wants to continue in the testing business. Then the scheme also provides for generating or issuing the security test certificates for telecom equipments after the testing has been performed. And there is detailed test procedures available for each of the ITSAR, which is being shared with the test laboratories. And shortly it will be made available to the industry also. Next slide, please. So the scheme also provides for the various requirements like renewal and modification of the certificates which have been issued to the TSTLs and the telecom equipments which have been tested. It also have provision for temporary certificates to facilitate quick deployment of software patches like updates and upgrades. Then certain fees has been mandated as part of the designation. Then the dispute resolution mechanisms for various processes under the scheme has also been laid down. In fact, the ComSec scheme is a complete scheme which guides the testing and certification of the telecom equipment for the security aspect of the telecom equipment, and whatever is being pursued within a Department of Telecommunication as far as the telecom security and testing is concerned is governed by the ComSec scheme. And this ComSec scheme was approved by the highest authority in the Department of Telecommunication, and any modification or amendment, if it is required to be carried out, which can be carried out depending upon the feedback provided by the industry and other stakeholders. So the feedback, if it is provided, then it can always be amended. So that was all for the ComSec scheme. Now we can move on to the next part of the presentation. Yeah. So we basically have come up with more than 40-50 𝐻𝑒 have been prepared in the last 3 years. And the first 2 specifications which we had prepared in NCCS, they were pertaining to the Wi-Fi access point and the router. This router specification or the router 𝐻𝑒 has been modified in 2024 itself, and it has been released I think just a month ago. And this 𝐻𝑒 of router, if we go through the routers 𝐻𝑒, we will find that there are certain requirements which have been specified. So if we want to do a categorization of these requirements, what we'll find is that the 𝐻𝑒 is comprising of a common set of security requirements which are common across the length and breadth of the telecom products which are being deployed in the telecom networks by various telecom service providers. So we have indicated them as common security requirements under the 𝐻𝑒. So the common set of security requirements basically fall under the various topics like access and authorization requirements, authentication attribute management, the software security, the system secure execution environments, the data protection which is required to be fulfilled by the telecom product, the network services which are to be supported, then the attack prevention mechanisms, the vulnerability testing requirements, the operating system, how the operating system is going to be updated. Then if there are the web servers implemented within the telecom product, then what are the various requirements that are to be fulfilled by the web service implementation in a particular telecom network element, and there are other security requirements. So all these are basically part of the common security requirement of 𝐻𝑒. Then the next part of the 𝐻𝑒 is product specific security requirements. We can move to the next slide, please. So in the specific security requirements of 𝐻𝑒s, the various topics which are covered are how event is going to be handled in a particular product, and specifically in the case of a router. So in case event happens, then what action the router is going to take. In case some audit data or for forensic, some information is required to be made available, how that information is generated, how it is transmitted, how it is stored, and when it is being transmitted, how the security, integrity, and confidentiality of that information is maintained. All that is part of the audit event generation and the audit data protection. Then any telecom network element, if we divide it into the functionality planes, we will find that the telecom network element will comprise of 3 planes. The first would be the control plane, wherein the signaling aspects and the various signaling mechanisms or the control information is exchanged. The second part would be the management plane, wherein how the network is managed, how the network element is managed, whether the management is from a local terminal or whether it is remotely managed. All those things are defined. And then the third part is the actual communication information which is exchanged through these network elements by the end customers, how it is going to be handled. So those three planes are also covered in the specific security requirements under the topics of the control plane traffic protection, the traffic filtering, which is to happen at the network level and the application and services level in case of a router, and the data plane traffic protection, how the confidentiality of the actual information which is exchanged by the users is going to be ensured, how the integrity of that information is going to be maintained, whether the information which is, let's say, generated in India and is to be terminated in India, then how it is required to be handled. All those requirements are covered under the specific security requirement part of the 𝐻𝑒. Since a router is a network layer device, basically it acts at layer 3 and layer 4. So there might be a requirement of converting a private IP address to a public IP address. So the netting capabilities and what is required to be saved for providing information to the law enforcement agencies also has been taken care during the specific security requirement part of the routers. And one very important support which has been included in the specific security requirements is the IPsec VPN support, because it is the routers which make use of the IPsec protocols. So what key length is required to be supported by the router, etc., that is covered under the IPsec VPN support requirement part of the 𝐻𝑒s. Then the access banners, the inter-VLAN routing support, and how the router is going to be updated. All those things are covered under the specific security requirements. And in addition to that, I would like to indicate to the participants that one very important document has been prepared by a DOT, NCCS DOT, which is basically the minimum requirements required for encryption. So if there is a requirement of encryption in any protocol, so what is the key length which is going to be used? What is the algorithm that is going to be used? That has been covered under a common set of a document, and that document is cross-referred in all the network element specifications wherever the process for encryption, etc., has been made use of, and you will find the references to that document also available in the specific security requirement part of any 𝐻𝑒 of a particular product. That was all from my side. If there are any specific queries, I can take that. Otherwise, I'll end my presentation here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the time to share your knowledge with us. Your expertise and insight were truly enlightening, and they added immense value to the discussion. Thank you once again. Now I will hand over it to Mr. Abhinav to shed more light on NCCS and the ComSec scheme. Mr. Abhinav, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nikita. Good morning, esteemed guests and audience members joining us from across the globe. First of all, I would like to extend my greetings and thanks to Mr. P.K. Singh sir, to navigate us through the technical aspects of a security testing environment in India. Sir, your presence and in-depth knowledge of the security ecosystem in India was of great significance and much appreciated by all of us. Further, I welcome you all into today's webinar, where we delve into India's mandatory security testing requirements for telecom products. Central to this discussion is the ComSec scheme, notified by the National Center for Communication Security, also known as NCCS. Here's what we will cover in my discussion today. NCCS and the ComSec scheme. We'll explore NCCS's role as a regulator and gain insights into the ComSec scheme in India. Common criteria certification. We'll provide an overview of common criteria certification and draw parallels with the ComSec scheme. ITSAR and products covered. Understanding ITSAR standards and exploring the telecom products covered under them. TSTL. Accreditation of telecom security testing laboratories by NCCS and the landscape of labs in India for security testing. So let's dive into the details. Can we move to the next slide, please? So before we dive into the specifics of the ComSec scheme, let's familiarize ourselves with the National Center for Communication Security, or NCCS. You can have a look onto your screen to check the various responsibilities and decision-making vested upon NCCS as a regulator. As a center operating under the Department of Telecommunication (DOT), NCCS plays a critical role in developing security standards and overseeing the security testing and certification of telecom equipments in India. Headquartered in Bangalore in India, as mentioned by Mr. P.K. Singh sir, its objectives include the development of country-specific standards called 𝐼𝐡-SARs, establishing a robust testing and certification ecosystem, and ensuring compliance with regulatory requirements. Next slide, please. Now, let's explore how NCCS operates across its various divisions. NCCS has 3 divisions or arms under its wing. Division 1 is SAS Division, also known as Security Assurance Standard. It is responsible for developing 𝐼𝐡-SARs, test procedures, and managing security assurance standards. Division 2 is SLR Division, also known as Security Lab Recognition. Its tasks include notifying TSTL designation mechanisms and outlining requirements for TSTLs. And the third division is SC and HQ Division, which is Security Certifications and Headquarters. This division issues security certificates for successfully tested telecom equipment. It evaluates test results from various security labs and issues certifications based on tests performed. The seamless coordination of all the 3 divisions in NCCS ensures the effectiveness and integrity of the ComSec scheme. Each division has an appointed Deputy Director General, DDG, a Director, and an Assistant Director General, ADG. And the entire NCCS division is headed by a Senior DDG. Can we move to the next slide, please? Now, the ComSec scheme, the Communication Security Certification Scheme, or popularly known as ComSec scheme, lies at the core of our discussion today. The ComSec scheme is formulated under the Mandatory Testing and Certification of Telecommunication Equipment (MTCTE). It is to be noted that to apply for ComSec certification, telecom equipment must already hold its MTCTR-ER certification. The ComSec certification process involves several steps. Step 1, registration and submission of application. Applicants submit application forms through the MTCTE portal, providing detailed information about their equipment. Once the ER certification of the product is completed and certificate has been issued by TEC under MTCTE, please navigate to Certificate section, then to Certificate Modification and Renewal section, and select Upgrade to ER plus 𝐼𝐡-SAR option. Once you apply for ComSec certification, NCCS, SC and HQ division thoroughly assess the product and application along with series formation and 𝐼𝐡-SAR BOM application. Step 2. Payment of applicable fees. Upon acceptance of the application, applicable government fees are paid. Step 3. Designation of Telecom Security Testing Laboratory (TSTL). Applicants are allowed to choose a designated TSTL, which is the security test lab in India, for their products' security testing. Step 4. Testing and evaluation. TSTL now conducts the testing while the SC division appoints a validator for parallel evaluation. The OEM is given a confined window of 16 weeks time in order to make their product comply of all the mandatory test parameters, post which the OEM has to reapply as per the regulations laid down. Step 5. Submission and evaluation of reports. Reports are submitted and evaluated for compliance with security standards by the SC division. Step 6. Certificate issuance. Upon successful evaluation, a parallel security certificate is issued by NCCS against the product and its series models if applicable. I hope we have navigated through all the steps clearly. Can we move to the next slide, please? Now, looking at the fee structure under the ComSec scheme, it varies based on the group of equipments being evaluated. So all 4 product categories, as mentioned in MTCTE scheme, namely Group A, B, C, and D, will be applied, and the security test report evaluation fee will be calculated as per the table shown here in the slide. Please be noted that the test labs security testing fee will be on and above of this administrative fee from NCCS for security test report evaluation. Additionally, key details to note under the ComSec schemes include the certificate validity issued by NCCS under ComSec scheme will be 10 years. There are provisions in ComSec scheme likewise in the MTCTE for allowance of certificate modifications as well as renewal of the allotted security certificate for another 10 years with the applicable administrative fee payment. The products which will be getting mandated under ComSec scheme first are the Wi-Fi CPE or wireless access points and IP routers. The scheme, upon couple of iterations, will now be getting mandated from 1st of July 2024. Can we move to the next slide, please? Now, let us look at this another scheme introduced by NCCS called Voluntary Securities Certification or VSC. So VSC is under the ComSec scheme only. It is which offers applicants flexibility and encourages proactive adoption of security measures. Notified on 25th of August 2023, VSC allows participants to register their MTCTE certified products, which will be Wi-Fi CPE or routers, IP routers, without the administrative fee payment. This scheme, currently running until at least 30th June 2024, enables online application through the MTCTE portal with no government fee. Applicant will apply by navigating to fresh application section in their MTCTE portal account and selecting voluntary security certification. The rest of the procedure will remain the same as ComSec scheme as discussed in the previous slide, barring the administrative fee payment section. Can we move to the next slide, please? Now, to draw parallel with ComSec scheme of India, let us explore commonly running global security certification programs. Let's briefly touch upon the common criteria or CC certification, which is a globally recognized certification focusing on evaluating and certifying the security properties of IT products as well as IT systems. As you can see on the slide, I have highlighted key aspects of the CC scheme. The certification process involves a structured evaluation conducted by accredited laboratories. It assesses the security features and functionalities of IT products and systems against common criteria protection profiles. Common criteria certification is applicable worldwide and widely recognized across various sectors and industries, serving as a benchmark for evaluating product security. Common criteria has its own portal, just like MTCTE or NCCS, and has more than 15 plus certificate authorizing member countries across the world, including India. Can we move to the next slide, please? So now let's come back and discuss the IT SaaS. So NCCS notifies 𝐼𝐡-SARs to establish security standards for telecom equipment. As of now, NCCS has notified 44 𝐼𝐡-SARs covering various products, including IP routers and Wi-Fi CPE. Additionally, we have tried to list down few of the other notified standards or 𝐼𝐡-SARs by NCCS in the slide. As you can see, this includes S gateway for 4G core network, session management function or SMF of 5G, P gateway for 4G network, core network, transmission terminal equipment, and UDM, amongst others. Please go to the next slide. Additionally, NCCS is in consultation with industry stakeholders to formalize 𝐼𝐡-SARs for emerging technologies like smart camera, vehicle tracking devices, smart electricity meter, and feedback devices. Next slide, please. Now let us talk about TSTL. So TSTL or Telecom Security Testing Laboratories play a crucial role in the certification process. These labs test telecom equipment for conformance to 𝐼𝐡-SARs. Prospective TSTLs undergo a rigorous evaluation process, including competency assessments, before being issued a designation certificate by the NCCS. So in nutshell, TSTL are the labs designated by the Indian regulator to perform security testing of telecom products, and test reports released by these TSTLs only will be accepted by NCCS for security certification in India. Can we move to the next slide? Currently, as you can see, there are 6 accredited TSTLs in India for mainly the up and coming mandatory 𝐼𝐡-SARs in India, that is Wi-Fi, CPE, and IP routers. These labs, recognized by the NCCS, uphold rigorous testing standards and contribute to the reliability and integrity of security testing procedures under the ComSec scheme. These all labs are in the geography of Mumbai, Bangalore, and Pune in India. It is to be believed that in coming months, other labs in India will also be allotted TSTL designation by SLR division in NCCS for various notified 𝐼𝐡-SARs. Next slide, please. Now, it is quite apparent from our discussion today that security testing is a new and one-of-a-kind regulation. To ensure a smooth testing and certification and avoid potential setbacks, we recommend to go for pre-compliance testing of your product to ensure that the product is complying with all the requirements as per the security standards. During security testing, NCCS makes witness testing, and any complications in testing may impact the results and the pass or fail criteria. In case of a failure, only 16 weeks are granted to an applicant to make necessary changes in their product to pass the test parameters. For such reasons, it is advised to perform a thorough security pre-compliance check. With past and even recent experiences with pre-compliance testing, it is being observed that with an alarming ratio of 7:2 and in some cases 7:3 as well, pass versus failed test parameters while testing against 𝐼𝐡-SARs under the ComSec scheme. Winkler, being your regulatory partner of choice, can help you with a smooth pre-compliance testing and security testing of your product as a bundled package. If the product fails during pre-compliance, then depending on the failure type, Winkler will help you with the detailed issues list and further assist on redoing the pre-compliance of the gaps found. We will also streamline the security testing procedure based on experience with pre-compliance results. Our connect with the labs is a value-add advantage that will provide you with the best testing and certification package. So with this, I would like to conclude my session for this webinar. Hope it was insightful for everyone who joined. Now handing back to Nikita for moderation and looking forward to hear from other esteemed panelists. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abhinav, for sharing the detailed information on the ComSec scheme. Dear participants, if you have any questions, please feel to type them in the Q&A section and we will address them during the end of the session. Moving on, we will talk next about another quality and assurance regulation for telecom product in India, that is Technical Specification Evaluation Certificate, also known as TSEC. Here I invite Shri N.K. Gupta sir to shed more light on TSEC approval and process. However, due to some technical issues, we are unable to see his video. Sir, stage is yours.
Thank you, Nikita, and for inviting me. And good morning to all participants. As you are aware, whatever is procured by BSNL is backed by a TC specification, TCGR. TCGR broadly defines the quality requirement, functional requirement of a product, including the EMI, EMC, and environmental requirement, QM333. All whatever we procure, BSNL is procuring, we always will refer the corresponding TCGR. And when we say it has to comply to corresponding TCGR, then it has to need to take a TSEC approval from either from TC or from the quality assurance circle of the BSNL. Previous to the formation of BSNL, it used to be done only by TC. Now TC as well as QA circle which comes under BSNL, they are also doing. So both are valid in the tender. If they want to participate in a tender, both are valid. If it is a QA certificate is there or TSEC certificate, which we say, if it is either from TSEC or TC or from QA, both makes people eligible for participation in the tender. Of course, I will tell further that for participation, you need not have the TC, but only registration is sufficient. So that government is aware or the BS purchaser aware that you are having a product which say you are having a router. It's not that you are saying only in air that you have a router, but there is no router available. I mean, there has been cases like this. That is what I'm saying. So TC, as I said, the GR broadly defined the functional requirement, EMI and EMC. For so the broadly procedure is that application process is already highlighted. Submission of application to BSNL. When you submit the application to QA circle, you have to give the product details. You have to give the quality manual. You have to give the PCB layout. You have to share the whatever literature is there of that product. You have to share with TC. QA circle will scrutinize the document. See, whatever registration application is given, you have to give registration fee has to be submitted along with that. And once you submit the application, registration fee, they will see that prima facie you are meeting the requirement. You have a product, and then they will register your application. Once the application is registered, then you have to submit the sample, and then it is a submission or registration. Registration is there is a form known as QF101, which you have to fill. That is available on online, or you can go to QA site website of the QA circle, and this form is available there. And there's a registration fee you have to pay. There's a process. Either you can pay online. I mean, still submission online is not very clear, but you can submit. People who are dealing with this subject, they are aware how to submit the application fee on registration fee online. So once the registration fee is submitted, then you have to submit your sample for testing, and your infrastructure assessment of the product is done. Infrastructure assessment of the manufacturing capability is done by the TCA team. Is deputed. Say the QA is spread on QA circle is spread over all over country. Say like QA headquarters is in Bangalore, but their team sits across different places in India, and then the nearest QA team will visit your premises, and they will see the product, and they will see the infrastructure, whether that you are ready for, whether the infrastructure is really available for manufacturing that product. After the completion of infrastructure assessment, a registration number is allotted. That means then after the registration number is allotted, you become eligible for participation in the BSNL tenders. So you can, on the basis of registration, you can participate in BSNL tenders. Of course, few vendors may be having already a full TSEC approval. That does not matter. They can also participate, and with your registration number, you can also participate in the BSNL tenders. Infrastructure, as I said, is being carried out to see your manufacturing capability, whether you can manufacture the product. You have the capability to do the manufacturing, and then they will also see whether you can repair the product or you can service the product. Because ultimately, for a telecom product, it's not only what is not it's important that you should be able to serve it also. You should be able to maintain the product, because any product will become faulty while it is working in the environment. Then after the assessment, after the infrastructure assessment is done, product will be tested for all functional requirement as per TCGR, and EMI EMC capability and not capability, EMI complies to EMI EMC. Some standards will be given in the TCGR, so compliance to that EMI EMC is seen. Normally, a certificate from the accredited lab is taken, and then QM333. QM333 is practically environmental testing, and then we specify in our TCGR depending on where it is to be deployed. If it is to be deployed in the AC environment, normally it is category A, if I remember correctly, and if it is to be deployed outside, then the higher category or different category is given, so that it can withstand the temperature range in which it has to work. And then this is the one part of the testing, and the product is also tested with respect to functional testing. With respect to functional testing, both hardware as well as software functional testing is done. For example, hardware testing will be, suppose the TCGR says it should be power supply should be redundant. So they will see whether power supply is redundant. If the TCGR says it has to be, PCB is to be hot swappable, they will test for hot swappability. And beside, there are other functions which are related to the hardware. I have given some examples, but the detailed testing will be done by TC, and then it will be done the software version, software capability of the product, because TCGR will specify a lot of functionalities of the product. So, and normally this, again, one point I would like to clear that the TC spec is broadly dependent on ITUT standards, ITUT or IEEE or IETF. It's not that TC will specify any product or will make the functional requirement of any product which is different from what is available in the market. So mostly TC will specify those only. In very rare cases, it happens TC will deviate, but normally we see that that product should be available with the majority of the vendors. So that's the way the spec is made. And then as a part of evaluation, we sometimes go for field trial also, because whether the equipment we specify in our TCGR that field trial is required for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. So sometime 1 month. For batteries, I think we specified 2 months. We used to specify the field trial. And then sometimes there's a provision of giving educational order also. But nowadays, the BSNL is not insisting on that. Previously, we used to insist on educational order as a part of the qualification for participation in the tender. But now I think we are not insisting on educational order. So broadly, this is the I've just touched, and of course, certificate will be issued to you once you meet all the requirements. Sometimes some deviations are there. They will take your comment. Sometimes I've seen situation where vendors is forced to improve the product. So if it is not coming up to the standard, then I've seen number of times really good vendors, established vendors, they will improve their product. They will make modification in their hardware design or software design so that it comes up to the TC specification. Once the certificate is issued, of course, you have already participated in the tender, but once the certificate issued, and if you have won the tender, then you can supply the equipment to the BSNL. So this is the broadly I have touched the how the TSEC process of BSNL is there. Our team at Vancular is having all the expertise to they can guide you, they can handhold you, they can advise you how to go about the process. They are handling a lot of subject. They are handling a lot of certification in this direction from TSEC or from QA or from TC. The mandatory testing, they are really experts. I'm just making a point. So with this, I think I have covered broadly the TSEC process of BSNL. Over to Nikita. Hello.
Thank you, sir, for enlightening us on the TSEC approval and process. Your expertise and insight has significantly contributed to our discussion, enriching our understanding of the topic. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Next, we will talk about the evaluation procedure for product assessment under MTCTE. Next slide, please. When we make assessment of product under MTCTE, we need to check the following things. First is whether the product is a telecom product, with telecom being a primary function of the product. As a prime intent of the regulation is to cover any device that has capability to connect to the Indian telecom network. We first assess whether the product under assessment is a telecom device or not. While any device can have communication technology such as Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, our product must be connected to Indian telecom network and fit any product category in the ERs prescribed by TC to be considered under MTCTE. Consumer products such as TV, refrigerator, the primary function of which is not a telecom, but having telecom interfaces such as Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and more like this are not covered under MTCTE for the time being. Second is whether it supports any of the mandatory protocols listed in the applicable ER. An example could be that a router device must support the routing protocols such as static and dynamic routing, OSPF, and other, present in the essential requirements. Similarly, for a network switch or an IoT gateway, the protocols listed in the ER must be supported for it to be classified as such. Third is whether the HS code for import is for a telecom product or not. While TC does not mention HS code in the official application procedure, it is still an important factor to be considered for foreign manufacturers while importing their product in country and getting it certified. If the HS code with which you are importing your telecom product in India belongs to a telecom category, most likely it will be covered under the purview of MTCTE. It should be noted that the product category for which certificate is issued by TC should be aligned with the HS code used for import of product to avoid any problem at customs. If the product fits all the three criteria above, it will be covered under the purview of MTCTE and should be certified. We will now move to the next slide. If you are still wondering why choose Vincular as your compliance partner, here is the answer. A single window to cater all your compliance requirements. We offer faster time to market and reduce cost for conformity. We have pan-India presence that enables swift coordination with regulators and customers. We believe in right and professional work practice. Customer centricity is our main motto. We have ex-government officials in our panel to enable faster turnaround time and expert guidance. We are also an active member of various industry organizations such as MEET, METCOF, and CII, amongst others. Also, we would like to highlight our exceptional business matrices. We have completed 3,000 plus projects till we have completed 30,000 plus project till financial year 2024. We have 700 plus happy customer and 65 plus expert at your service. The next slide provides an overview of the services we offer under our umbrella. Please take a moment to review them. I know you all had been waiting for this. We have received some interesting questions from the audience. Let's jump on the Q&A session without any further delay. Our first question is, may we know whether local labs are ready for all test item of ComSec scheme asking for their Wi-Fi access point device? I would request Abhinav to address this question.
Okay, thank you, Nikita. So I believe your question is specifically for Wi-Fi access point devices. So yes, there are few labs in India which are designated labs by NCCS for running IT security testing. These are called TSTLs, which I was discussing earlier as well in my slides. So one lab is in Bangalore and two in Mumbai as of now for Wi-Fi CP. The important point, however, I would like to point out here is that the manufacturer will get only 16 weeks to comply their product with all test parameters from the date of commencement of testing. For Wi-Fi CP access points, there are around 70 plus test parameters to mandatorily comply with as per the local Indian security standard known as ITSAR. If the OEM is not able to overcome the requirement within 16 weeks, then they have to reapply their application with NCCS. And again, you have to pay the hefty testing fee to the lab to retest. Within 16 weeks window, however, if OEM is allowed to make multiple iterations in their product software in the presence of an NCCS validator with remote assistance or physical assistance to make it comply. So that is why we discussed that it becomes paramount and we recommend OEMs to apply for pre-compliance testing of your product. The lead time to complete the testing and share test reports in the pre-compliance testing would be around 6 to 8 weeks with at most 2 samples. And also, we'll get discounted lab price testing pricing as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Abhinav. If we proceed pre-testing and the lead time is around 6 to 8 weeks after pre-testing finish, what is the lead time for official test? Will lab shorten the lead time of official test or use the data from pre-testing stage? Abhinav, please address this.
Okay, so that becomes an important question. So yeah, thanks. So if we proceed with the pre-compliance testing, but unfortunately the answer to that would be no. Applicant will have to again retest the equipment if it fails during the final security testing. So please be noted that during application filing and testing, a validator from NCCS will be appointed to overlook the testing. Pre-compliance testing, however, here will help you overcome all non-compliant test parameters and ensure that you meet the timelines for final certification. It is to be noted, as I was mentioning in my session earlier as well, that with the Indian regulations around security testing is quite stringent, that labs have experienced around a fail to pass ratio of 7:3 in many cases for these equipments, telecom equipments. So thank you.
Thank you, Abhinav. Please note that we have considered all the questions present in the chat. We will get back to all of you shortly via email. In the interest of time, we won't be able to take up more questions. However, we will get back to you. Thank you all for being a part of today's webinar. Your active participation is truly appreciated. If you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. Additionally, be sure to check out our latest blog on ComSec scheme for further insight. For those who wish to stay updated with latest notifications and industry updates, our compliance collaterals are available at no cost, which includes newsletter published monthly and quarterly, publication space for instant coverage of regulation. This dedicated WhatsApp channel is where you can find all our collaterals available on different platforms in a single post.